Florida. I went to Florida. New York City's where I went after. Welcome everybody to a brand new Kirblog. Please don't close the window. I'm done. All right, I'm back. For those of you who don't already know, I've returned from a quick little week-long vacation. And as the intro implied, I went to both beautiful Orlando, Florida, and good old New York, New York. Actually, New York, New York. Amy and I went together. Primarily, this was to meet each other's families. That's how you know it's serious. And also to see her dog. I had not been to Orlando. I haven't been to Florida, but Orlando is really the only place from Florida I've ever really been to in a very long time. I think actually well over an entire decade by this point. When I was younger, I used to go to Disney all the time with my family, particularly my dad. As we've often probably told stories in some of the old Kirblog's with good old Dadifer, and we saw him. He sends his love to all of you, his adoring fans, by the way. But yeah, you know, it's interesting because like some of my parents, my mom and stepdad have retired there for the most part, and my dad and stepmom eventually want to go to Florida and retire there at some point soon too. But, you know, other friends of mine who grew up in Florida, not necessarily in Orlando, but just in Florida in general, are like, Florida sucks and you don't want to go there. And so I had kind of a negative perception of it just because of like a few friends of mine that had, you know, kind of painted it that way. But, you know, going back to at least Orlando, it was pretty nice, actually. My opinion's changed. It was extremely rainy for any of you listening who live down there. I mean, it's been raining on the West Coast in general. It was pretty rainy in New York as well. But, yeah, it was a pretty nice place. It was good to just kind of get a very distinct change of scenery, and you can't get much different than, even though it, you know, it's hot out and beachy, much like L.A. and California tends to be. But I don't know, it was a little quainter, little brighter and sunnier, and you know. A lot more wildlife, lots of animals in Florida. I was seeing like little cute like lizards like every 2 seconds everywhere I turned, and it was reminding me a lot of Shadow of the Colossus. Just the, you know, them going around everywhere and going, oh, I gotta kill them and get the tails so I can increase my stamina or whatever. Including, well, I mean, obviously Florida is known for having alligators. I did not see any. However, I did for the first time in my life eat gator. Amy's one of her favorite places to eat is a place, in fact, called Gator, or Gators, I should say. It's a chain in Florida, and we went to one together. I think on the first full day that we were there, went out and got some food, and mainly for the wings. But she was like, "I want you to try Gator," and I remember actually there was a place in New York, funnily enough, that had it, some restaurant, and Zach Bellissimo, co-creator of Long Gun Gulch, if you guys would know him. He had it for the first time, but it was like, I forget exactly how it was prepared, but I was just like, ugh, I don't know if I want to have that. He said it was really good, and that was probably back when I was a supremely fucking picky eater. But I gave it a shot, and you know what? I really liked it. It was like a kind of a seasoned, tasted and kind of chicken to it. It was nice breaded little like gator bits or whatever. There's other like types of ways that it was prepared at this place, but that was the way that I tried it. It was pretty good, so much that I got it twice. We went to some other like seaside restaurant later. We drove down to near where the beach was, and we got some lunch there. But actually, so the following day on the way to the seaside restaurant, we stopped by a little area, and some of you guys might have seen the pictures of this. This was so cool. This is a big thing I was looking forward to. So there's this little place off the side of the road in one of the freeways in Orlando where you can get, and I'm assuming there's probably places like this, you know, around as well, but and maybe in different places, not just Florida. But there's a little clearing where scrub jays, which these little blue birds, will come out and like fly onto you. Apparently, so I've been told anyway. Apparently, humans have been going over and feeding them in this area so often, and I guess that they're such fearless birds that they'll just fly onto you. And I took a whole bunch of different pictures, one of which is in the preview image here. I tweeted a few other ones if you go back and find that. We got a lot of really good shots, but yeah, it was that was a completely surreal experience. I mean, I've been to like zoos before. I'd played with, you know, some animals in that kind of sense, but never like completely in the wild. I think have I ever like had an animal come up and not only touch me, but like be on me. I had like two of them on me at once. At one point, I felt like a fucking Disney princess. I think I sang a little song. We didn't get a video of it, sadly. Maybe we did. I can't remember if we didn't put it up yet, but yeah, I felt very one with nature at that moment. I remember even like when we got there in the morning, I was so like probably heavily jet lagged, even though we jumped ahead 3 hours or whatever. I was so tired in the morning, and it was really hot and sweaty out, and I was just like fatigued. And I was like, "Where are we, Amy? What's going on?" And then as soon as we found the birds, and we found a family of maybe like 4 or 5 of them, I think, and most of which came over to us. We got some great pictures. I like as soon as they came over to me and like landed on my hand, and I was wearing a hat for the first time in like centuries, just so they wouldn't poop on me. Not that they poop on you anyway, and they were landing on my phone. Like platforming off of my phone and shit. They like immediately like just revitalized me. It felt so good, and I was like, oh, I'm happy now. Everything's wonderful. So and we played with Amy's lovely dog Sadie, who is 8 years old. She's a pit bull boxer mix, and she knows how to do lots of tricks. And I rhymed with that. Dicks, good. Good, Chris. Good. Okay, that's the end, everybody. Good night. And she was adorable. Spent a lot of time with her over those 3 days or so. We basically set it up where we were going to have 3 days in Florida and 3 days in New York. So we each got to see each other's hometowns, which was really sweet. And so after that trip there, we went to New York City. Well, actually, I kind of cheated a little bit, so I got to ever come to both New York City and Long Island, where I grew up originally. But New York, I lived in Manhattan for about 4 years when I was going to the School of Visual Arts, as a lot of you guys know from my old days. But nonetheless, yeah. So we went to New York City and actually did all the stuff that we wanted to do very, very quickly. The major locales that we hit up were Times Square, because duh, Bryant Park, the big Kinokuniya, which I only ended up buying like one thing. I got like one of those little like red bean pancake things or whatever. Then we went to Nintendo World Store, and surprisingly, Amy didn't find anything that she wanted to buy. I think because she was sad to find out that it was mostly plushies, and we don't have room for any more plushies in our house anymore. So we did that, and then the following day, we did a little bit of just a tiny sliver of Central Park. We didn't have time for the majority of it, but we walked up to the Museum of Natural History, which I had not been to in a very long time. I think not since I'd been to college. I think I hadn't been there in a long time. But so I kind of didn't exactly know where I was going, but we kind of just improved around, and we saw mostly animal stuff and the dinosaur bones and all that. And that was nice. And then we came back. We had a very quaint dinner with my family, with several members of my family, including both sets of my parents, which that was fun. And then after that, we went to Long Island. And some of you guys might have seen the little Kirblog that I did a couple days ago when we were there. That was on the last full day of the vacation we had. That was actually the most genuinely relaxing part of the entire vacation, was just going to Long Island. I basically I took Amy around to all of my, because obviously New York City and Long Island in general are my, old places of origin, but I specifically took her to my old stomping grounds in terms of like where I grew up for a very long time, and including, of course, in downtown Northport, which is where the park I, used as reference for the location of the Balancing Act feature film that I did, or a thesis film, not feature film. That'll be someday, hopefully. That was super relaxing. Also being by the water as well, because that little area is right by the pier, in case you guys hadn't noticed from the video. Or if any of you happen to live there, I got a couple comments of being like, oh, I live around that area. I was like, oh, wow, crazy. That's coincidental. But very relaxing, and we had some lovely home cooking from my parents. Went around, did a little teeny bit of shopping. And just tried to relax and decompress, and then we got back home with little to no issue, and here we are. But so with that out of the way, actually, I have plenty to say about all the other usual sections of this Kirblog with what I've been watching, playing, and working on lately, and some of it has to do with while we were at the trip. First of all, watching lately, we watched like 4 movies just during the course of the trip. First of all, Amy, one of her favorite movies of all time is Animal House. We happened to just pick up a copy of it, I think while we were just out somewhere in Florida. and we watched it together. It was so surreal because it's one of those movies that is just so ingrained in American culture that like I've seen the parodies of it in like every show and other movie ever, but I'd never seen the real thing. I was sad to say, I wasn't actually a big fan of the movie, unfortunately. It was so weird because like I had a good time watching it, and like it was funny. There were a lot of, there were a lot of good gags. There were a lot of dated gags. Actually, similarly, I watched Airplane as well, which I'd never seen. Although same kind of thing where like I knew the references and jokes and stuff and parodies from lots of other stuff that I'd seen. That movie I enjoyed more than Animal House, but also both of them I was like, oh, there's a lot of things in these that you cannot do anymore because they're not okay. But nonetheless, yeah. Actually, funnily enough, too, after seeing Animal House, I think even later that same day, we went to see Ant-Man and the Wasp just because like we were bored and we were up late and we were like, let's go see a movie because there's still theaters open this late anyway, so why not? And I'd missed out on it when it came out during 4th of July weekend because I was a little preoccupied with Anime Expo. And really enjoyed that movie too, by the way. It actually was funny because Amy's not really a big fan of the Marvel movies, like overall. She hasn't really seen a whole lot of them. And but just because like it happened to be around, and I heard it was good, good enough as in every other Marvel movie, level of quality, I guess. And she turned out to really like it and was pleasantly surprised at how actually cool Ant-Man's powers turned out to be. But it was really hilarious to me because it just so happened to have that little clip from Animal House where like the teacher and the other guys are talking about like, oh, like what if like in the cuticle of our fingernail is like an entire like universe or whatever and all that, etc. So clearly it was destiny. Also, this was the biggest takeaway. Just like I've seen this already like several times, but I was reminded of how good of a fucking movie it is. I watched Mean Girls for the first time in a few years, and I forgot just how brilliant. Also, I learned that I didn't realize that Tina Fey like wrote the movie. Apparently, I mean she's great in it too as the teacher, but like, God, it's like so snappy, and like we were quoting it like the whole rest of the trip and shit. Like, I kept something about Lacey Chabert playing like a mentally breaking down teenager, slowly descending into madness, is the most amusing thing in the world to me. But I remember I kept doing the scene where Regina George, if you guys have seen the movie, the scene where she's like the other plastics, the other girls are like telling her that she can't sit with them because of she's wearing sweatpants or whatever on a day that's not Thursday or whatever the hell it is. And then fucking Lacey Chabert's character is like, "You can't sit with us!" Just like freaking the hell out. I still keep thinking about it just because it cracks me up every fucking time. Nonetheless, and then also on the flight back, I happened to I didn't have any earphones, but I wanted to just watch a movie because which I'll get to this in a bit. But I beat Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, which I'll get to that in a minute. But after I ran out of things to do, I was like, I want to watch a movie. What can I watch? So I put on Toy Story 2, and I didn't have any earbuds, so I just watched it with no sound. But I basically knew the entire plot of the movie and like most of the dialogue. So it was interesting because in this case, I was kind of like, I was doing two different things. One, I was sort of scoring it in my head with like various whatever background music I felt like, everything from like the Toy Story actual music, the Toy Story Genesis music, Hunter x Hunter music. Don't ask. Sorry. No, somebody do that. Oh, by the way, shout out to the Tome fandom. Why the fuck has nobody done when Zeto's arm being cut off was a fucking meme for like a week? Why did nobody take the clip of Woody's arm being severed and him freaking out about it and made a thing out of that? Somebody get on that, for the love of God. I'm literally telling you, do it, please, for only if you want to, though. Only if it brings you joy, just like the rest of my sounds of agony. Anyway. So watch that, but it was interesting because I was paying more attention to the visuals. A hilarious gag that I noticed this time is the part where the wrong Buzz, who still thinks he's a toy, thinks that he's gonna fly and bring everybody up to the. It's when they're on like the elevator shaft, and then like I'm going to let go of the wall, and then they fall and they hit the bottom of it or whatever, and they get up and they're all, and like Potato Head and Ham and Rex are all like, oh God, and Slinky, And then you see in the background, Rex is, I wish this was, I had face cam for this, but like, Rex is just like stuttering around like he's got like shell shock, and it's the funniest goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, so watched a lot of movies. Playing lately, I've mentioned before, Amy and I have been playing through Ocarina of Time on the N64. She never played it. She beat the shit out of Breath of the Wild, and I wanted to show her my favorite Zelda game, also known as the only one that I've ever actually beaten. On her playthrough, we've just recently hit the Water Temple, which actually, after playing through it again, not really that bad. I think the Shadow Temple is actually a lot more annoying, which I still like the Shadow Temple, but like in terms of difficulty and trickiness or whatever, that one bothers me the most. But nonetheless, so yeah, that I was just on such a kick, and I kind of wanted to play through it again myself. So I hit up Steve Yurko and borrowed his copy of Ocarina of Time 3D, and I beat the whole thing like in the span of the entire like vacation that I was gone. I did all the Spiritual Stone dungeons like on the flight to Florida, and then played it a little bit intermittently throughout different points. Usually like when we were winding down for the night and just hanging out in bed and stuff. And then I beat Ganon after like 4 tries. Took me a while to beat him on the way back. And also, just for shits, because I had never managed to do it before on the N64 version, I actually did the Big Goron sword thing. I had attempted it on the N64 way back in the day, but never was able to complete it. I did that, and then I also did the Gerudo training facility stuff, and I got the ice arrows, which I ended up actually never using once because I'm an idiot. And I have no intention of getting all the Skulltulas. I also tried Master Quest, the first dungeon of Master Quest, and I was like, oh, this is nigh impossible. I'm going to not do this. No thanks. But that said, in looking back on it, god damn, I love that game. I even though I'm not even like really a Zelda fan, I fucking love Ocarina of Time. Just something about it for some reason just really captivates me, the way that it has with everybody else, just in how it is. And it's still massively flawed and old and has its problems that are completely valid from everybody's complaints about it, but I still fucking love that game, and I'm happy to play it. Next year, when I get back to doing gaming streams again, I would really like to round up some people and do a WAP-TOIS of Ocarina of Time. I don't know if that'll happen for sure, but I would really like to, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, of course, when it comes to what am I been working on lately, I try not to do too much work while I was away on the vacation, but I did do a little bit of something fun. I actually wrote some really cute little dialogue bits that happen, little conversations that happen between the Dandy Alliance characters. This is, of course, for Tome RPG. When you form a team attack with them, and we have a little conversation between the two characters in question, and they like come up with what their move is going to be. And I actually drew some sketches, and actually I might even stream working on the finished versions of them too, because they're not really spoilers; they're just of the main characters, which everybody's seen. I made little like Tales of style. Portraits of them, like full body ones, and I'm going to give them like different eyes and mouths and stuff for just specifically those cutscenes. So I did a little bit of that, a little bit of tiny bit of writing, and then as soon as I got home, I got right back to work. I've been helping out Scott Kaiser-Neko from Team 4-Star with, of course, the big-ass episode 60 of Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I got tons and tons and tons of flaps to do. More, in fact, I might even be doing some by the time that this video goes up. But yeah. So doing a little bit of that, and I'm right back to streaming again. I'm going to try to finish up the $500 characters. Next week, I'm going to have some announcements, by the way, regarding a convention that I'll be going to for one day, the Animanga Expo out in California, and as well as the check-in stream that we're going to be doing for Tome RPG. Finally, we're going to be doing that very soon. So stay tuned for details on that. And lastly, you can hear me in something new that actually I hadn't plugged already. Of course, Octopath and Godzilla 2 are the two big ones right now. But something else that just recently came out, a little mobile game called Food Fantasy. Myself and actually a bunch of my friends you might recognize, Kira and Casey Modulo, Faye Mata, a bunch of folks, are all in there. And I voice Miso Soup, who is my little crappy impression of Edwin Tiong. Haha! And I play a couple other characters as well, Eclair and Peking Duck and Spaghetti, I think, were the other three. And I think they might not be like out yet or whatever, but those are the other characters that I played. So if you're into mobile games and cute anthropomorphized food boys, go check out Food Fantasy, featuring myself and a bunch of my friends. So that's going to do it. That's everything for now. I may get back to streaming tomorrow if I have some time, so keep an eye out But otherwise, by the way, I've not been getting questions, guys. So send me some questions if you have any. Like leave a comment or shoot me a tweet or something. I want to do the little mailbag section at the end of the video. I haven't been able to do that in a while, and I would like to, because I've just been otherwise doing this. These still haven't been getting a whole lot of great views, but they're certainly convenient for me to do, to just make these little quick videos like this, like I have been. So, yeah, I hope you are at least enjoying them somewhat. If you're still listening to them at all, shrug, whatever. Anyway, all right, guys, that's going to do it for me. So I will catch you all later, and have an excellent weekend. Fare thee well.